The night was cold and wet. Rain fell softly on the metal streets of Neo-London. The streetlights flickered weakly, painting pale yellow circles on the ground. A young boy named Evan sat near the shuttle terminal, hugging his thin jacket close to his chest. He was only 16 with tired eyes and dirt on his face. His stomach growled again, but he had already searched the trash bins 3 times today. There was nothing left. Evan had been living on the streets for almost a year, after his mother died and his father disappeared during the last war. He had no one left. Every day he tried to survive, doing small tasks, cleaning, carrying things, sometimes begging near the shuttle station. Some people ignored him, some threw coins, but most just walked away, pretending not to see him. That night was worse than usual. The rain made everyone hurry home. Even the food stalls were closing early. Evan sat under the broken roof of an old terminal gate, watching the big transport ships land and take off. He liked their lights. They made him forget for a moment that he was hungry. Then he noticed someone different. A girl stood near the ticket booth, wearing a silver blue coat that looked too clean for this dirty place. Her eyes glowed faintly under the light, almost silver in color. She looked lost, confused, and frightened. The shuttle driver was shouting at her, waving a device that displayed a number. "You don't have enough credits, lady," the driver barked. "No pay. No seat." The girl looked around helplessly. "Please, I need to leave tonight," she said, her voice soft but trembling. The driver crossed his arms. "Then pay, or step aside." Evan watched quietly from his corner. He didn't know why, but something in her tone made him stand up. Maybe it was the way she looked. Not proud, not angry, just scared. He checked his pocket. He had only 1 coin left, enough to buy a small bread tomorrow. He stared at it for a moment, then sighed. He walked to the booth and said, "I'll pay for her." The driver looked at him and laughed. "You? You can't even pay for your own shoes." Evan ignored the insult and put the coin on the counter. "This covers the fare, right?" The driver looked annoyed but accepted it, muttering something about stupid humans. He unlocked the gate and let the girl in. The girl turned to Evan, eyes wide. "Why? Why did you help me?" she asked. Evan shrugged. "Because you needed help," he said simply. "Don't worry about it." She looked at him for a long moment. Her eyes shimmered as if holding tears. "You don't even know who I am," she whispered. "Doesn't matter," Evan said. "You were in trouble. That's enough." Before she boarded the shuttle, she stepped closer and said quietly, "You're a strange human." "Evan," he blinked. "How do you know my name?" She smiled faintly. "Because I asked your heart." And it answered. Evan didn't understand what she meant, but before he could ask, she walked into the shuttle. The doors closed behind her, the engines hummed, and the ship lifted into the misty sky, disappearing among the clouds. Evan stood there for a while, watching the light fade away. He felt a strange warmth inside his chest, something he hadn't felt in a long time. He didn't know who she was, and he didn't expect to ever see her again, but her words stayed in his mind. He went back under the broken roof and lay down. The cold wind brushed against his face, but somehow he didn't feel so alone anymore. He closed his eyes, and for the first time in weeks, he slept without fear. The next morning, the city was buzzing. The news screens above the streets flashed with headlines. "Unknown attack in orbit. Shuttle disappears with all passengers." Evan stopped and stared at the screen. His heart sank. The shuttle, the same one she had boarded last night, was gone. People around him murmured about raiders, pirates, and space accidents, but no one really cared. To them, it was just another story. Evan sat down on the pavement, staring blankly. "She can't be dead," he whispered to himself. He didn't even know her name, but somehow it hurt. That night, while he sat alone again near the terminal, he looked up at the stars. "I hope you made it," he said softly. "Whoever you are, far above the clouds, beyond the city's light, a massive silver ship floated silently. Inside, the same girl lay in a healing pod, her coat torn and her body weak. Her silver eyes opened slowly. "The human boy. Find him," she murmured to her AI assistant. "He gave me hope," the AI responded. "Understood, Lady Lyra Vareth, diplomat of the Galactic Union." Lyra closed her eyes again, whispering he doesn't even know what he started. Back on Earth, Evan looked up at the same stars, unaware that his small act of kindness had changed the course of the galaxy. He thought he was just a homeless boy who helped a stranger, but destiny had already written his name among the stars. 3 days had passed since the night Evan helped the strange girl at the terminal. The city didn't care. People were busy chasing food, credits, or power. No one remembered a small shuttle that vanished in orbit. But Evan did. He thought about it every night, wondering if she survived, wondering why her voice still echoed in his head. He sat near the same gate again, staring at the sky. His hands were cold, his stomach empty, but his mind kept replaying her last words. "You're a strange human, Evan." How had she known his name? Maybe she was part of some weird cult, or maybe she really was something else. Her silver eyes weren't normal. No human eyes looked like that. They had light inside them, soft and alive, like stars that evening while he searched a trash bin for food. A sudden noise made him turn. A small drone hovered in front of him. Its blue sensor light scanned his face. "Identification confirmed. Human subject Evan R412, it said in a mechanical voice. Evan froze. "What are you?" "Assistance unit of the Galactic Union," the drone replied. "Please remain calm." Evan laughed nervously. "Galactic what?" "You got the wrong guy, buddy. I'm nobody." The drone projected a hologram, and his eyes widened. It was her, the silver-eyed girl, wearing an elegant uniform now. Her hair glowed under soft light. She looked tired but alive. "Evan," her voice came through. Clear and calm. "You may not remember me, but I remember you." He blinked. "Of course I remember you." "You vanished!" "They said your shuttle was destroyed. I was attacked," she said softly. "But I survived thanks to you." Evan shook his head. "Me? I just gave you a coin," she smiled faintly. "Sometimes the smallest act of kindness moves the biggest stars." The hologram flickered. "I owe you a debt, human. The galaxy does not forget such kindness. A transport will come for you tonight. Do not resist." "Wait, what do you mean, transport?" "Where are you taking me?" Evan shouted, but the hologram vanished. The drone turned and flew away into the night, leaving him confused and scared. He stood alone for a long time, the rain starting again. Part of him thought it was a dream, but deep inside, something told him it was real. He packed his small bag, a torn blanket, 2 empty bottles, a broken watch. That was all he owned. Still he waited. At midnight, the clouds parted, and a strange light cut through the darkness. A silent ship descended slowly, no sound, no heat, just a soft humming like a heartbeat. The ground glowed under it. Evan's eyes widened as the air around him shimmered. The ship landed quietly and a ramp extended. 2 tall armored figures stepped out. Their armor reflected the city lights, and their helmets showed glowing visors. One of them spoke, voice mechanical yet calm. "Evan of Earth. You are requested by diplomat Lyra Vareth." Evan took a step back. "I think you've got the wrong person." "I'm not anyone important. You are expected," the guard said, offering his hand. "Refusal will endanger your safety." Evan hesitated, then slowly reached out. The guard's hand was warm and steady. They led him up the ramp, and the world around him disappeared. Inside the ship, everything was silver and white. The air smelled like metal and flowers. A strange warmth spread across his skin as the door sealed behind him. He felt cleaner somehow. His old jacket didn't even smell anymore. Then he saw her, Lyra, sitting on a floating chair surrounded by glowing symbols. She looked different now. Elegant, calm, powerful. Her silver eyes still shone, but now they carried authority. "Welcome, Evan," she said softly. "I'm glad you came." He stared at her. Speechless. "You're real," he whispered. "You're alive," Lyra smiled. "Thanks to you." "I didn't do anything special," he said, shaking his head. "I just gave you my last coin." And in doing so, Lyra replied, "You reminded me that compassion still exists on this planet. Do you know what I am?" Evan frowned. "Some kind of alien?" She chuckled lightly. "Yes, but more than that. I am a galactic diplomat sent to Earth in disguise. I was targeted by those who wanted to destroy peace between our worlds. Your small act of kindness saved me from being caught that night." Evan blinked, trying to understand. "So, you're like an alien ambassador?" "Something like that," Lyra said. "And you, Evan, are now under the protection of the Galactic Union." He laughed. "Protection? Me? I live under a bridge." Lyra looked serious now. "You won't anymore." Evan felt something stir inside his chest, a mix of fear and wonder. "Why me?" he asked quietly. "Because," she said gently, "when the galaxy forgot mercy, you remembered it." The ship vibrated as it ascended through the clouds. The city lights faded below them and the stars grew brighter. Evan pressed his face to the glass window, watching the sky open wider than he'd ever seen. Lyra watched him silently, a faint smile on her lips. She had met kings and generals, but no one had ever impressed her like this hungry human boy. He turned to her. "So, where are we going?" She looked out at the stars. "Home," she said. "To show them what humanity really means." Evan swallowed hard, looking once more at the shrinking earth below. His heart pounded, his hands trembled. He had no idea that his life, once buried in dust and hunger, was about to echo through the galaxies as the ship disappeared into the night sky. The city below never knew that a homeless boy had just left Earth to become part of something far greater than himself. The next morning, Neo London looked different from above. The silver ship hovered silently in the high clouds. Hidden behind a cloak field, Evan stood near a wide window, staring down at the city that once ignored him. The towers looked like toys, the streets like thin lines of light. He couldn't believe that he, a boy who used to beg for food, was now flying among the stars. Lyra walked up beside him, dressed in her official robe again. Her silver eyes caught the morning light like mirrors. "You still stare at Earth," she said softly. Evan nodded. "It looks so peaceful from up here," he said. "But down there it's all noise, hunger, and fear." Lyra's voice was calm. "That's what happens when those with power forget those without it," she said. "It's the same everywhere, even in my world." Evan turned to her. "Why did you come here in the first place?" "To see if humanity was ready," she said. "Ready to join the Galactic Union?" Evan blinked. "You mean like Earth becoming part of your alliance?" Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, but I wasn't sure if your kind deserved it," she said, her tone heavy, "until you gave me your last coin." Before he could answer, a sudden alarm echoed through the hall. Red lights flashed and the ship trembled. A robotic voice spoke. "Incoming patrol craft, a human authority class." Lyra's expression darkened. "We've been detected," she whispered. "I told them not to fly this low." Outside, 3 city patrol ships approached rapidly, their searchlights cutting through the mist. "Unidentified vessel. You are in restricted airspace," the radio boomed. "Descend and prepare for inspection." Lyra's crew looked at her for orders, but she remained calm. "No harm," she said. "Let them come." The ship slowly descended, landing on an abandoned rooftop near the outer zone. The patrol vehicles surrounded them, sirens echoing through the rain. Evan felt his heart pound. "They'll arrest me," he said. "They think I stole this thing." Lyra looked at him and smiled. "Then let them try." The ship's door hissed open, and cold air rushed inside. The patrol officers stepped out of their crafts. Wearing dark armor and holding plasma rifles, the leader shouted, "Hands where I can see them." Evan raised his hands, shaking slightly. "I swear I didn't do anything," he said. The officer sneered. "Homeless rat like you? Flying a ship like this? Who are you working for?" Before Evan could answer, a soft humming filled the air. A light spread from behind him, bright, golden and warm. The patrol turned in shock. Lyra walked out slowly, her long robe flowing like liquid silver. Her eyes glowed brighter than the searchlights. The rain seemed to stop around her, drops hanging mid-air as if time itself bowed. The leader lowered his weapon, eyes wide. What are you?" Lyra's voice echoed with calm power. "I am Lyra Vareth, diplomat of the Galactic Union," she said. "And this human is under my protection." The officer hesitated. "Galactic Union? That's a myth." Lyra stepped closer, and the air shimmered around her, revealing a floating emblem of light, a symbol of the Union, spinning gently. "Does a myth speak?" she asked. The men stepped back, awe and fear mixing on their faces. Evan whispered, "Lyra, maybe we should go." She turned to him, her tone gentle again. "You see, Evan, they only believe what they fear," she said. "That is why your kindness matters." She looked at the patrol. "Tell your leaders that the Galactic Union is watching." The light around her dimmed. The rain began to fall again, and before the officers could react, the ship lifted silently, wind pushing them back. In seconds, it vanished into the sky, leaving only steam and confusion behind. Inside, Evan sat down, his heart still racing. "You shouldn't have done that," he said. "Now everyone will be after us." Lyra looked at him, her tone calm but firm. "They already were," she said. "And now they will think twice before hurting you." Evan frowned. "But why protect me at all?" "I'm not special," Lyra smiled. "You are the proof." she said softly. Proof that even on a broken planet, humanity still carries light. He stared at her, trying to find words, but nothing came. He had never been praised like that. Never seen anyone risk themselves for him. The ship rose higher again, breaking through the last layer of clouds. The stars stretched across the sky like a silver ocean. Evan pressed his hand on the glass, watching the earth grow smaller beneath them. Lyra walked beside him again. Evan, there's something I need you to know, she said. What is it? He asked. The attack on my shuttle wasn't random, she said quietly. Someone from your world helped them. Evan turned sharply. Humans? You mean humans tried to kill you? Lyra nodded slowly. Yes, and that is why the Union fears Earth. He clenched his fists. Then let me help, he said, surprising even himself. Lyra studied him for a moment, then smiled faintly. You already are, Evan, she said. Your courage will do more than any weapon. Outside, the stars shimmered like distant fires, and for the first time in his life, Evan felt that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't meant to sleep under the city sky anymore. He was meant to walk among the stars. The stars outside the window burned like tiny fires, and Evan couldn't stop staring at them. He had never been this far from Earth before, never breathed air that didn't smell like smoke and rain. Inside the silver ship, everything felt too clean, too bright, too unreal. He sat quietly in the observation deck, legs pulled close to his chest, trying to understand what was happening. A week ago, he was a boy with no home. Now he was flying through space beside an alien who called herself a diplomat. Footsteps echoed softly behind him. Lyra approached, wearing a simpler robe now. Not her royal armor. Her face looked calmer, almost human in the soft blue light. You haven't spoken much since we left, she said. Evan shrugged. What's there to say? You're from the stars, I'm from the streets. Lyra tilted her head. You think that means you don't belong here? He looked away. I don't belong anywhere, she smiled faintly. You sound like me once. Evan turned to her, surprised. You? You're rich, powerful, everyone listens to you. Lyra's silver eyes softened. I wasn't always a diplomat. I was born on a small moon called Vareth 5, a place the galaxy forgot. I worked my way up through silence and loss. Sometimes I think I became a diplomat only because no one believed I could. Evan's eyes widened. So you were like me. She nodded slowly. Yes, and that's why I understand you better than you think. Before Evan could answer, the ship's AI spoke. Approaching Galactic Union checkpoint, through the window, he saw something vast, a colossal ring station floating in space. Glowing with millions of lights, it looked alive. Ships coming and going like blood through veins. Evan pressed his hands against the glass, speechless. Lyra watched his awe. Welcome to the Union's border, she said softly. Few humans have ever seen this, he whispered. It's beautiful. She looked at him for a long moment, then said, Evan, there's something I want to offer you. He turned to her slowly. Offer me? Yes, she said, walking closer. You gave me kindness when I had nothing. Now I want to give you purpose. Evan blinked. Purpose? I don't even have shoes. Lyra chuckled lightly. That will change. The Union has rules. Every diplomat needs a human liaison for missions to developing worlds. Someone who understands humanity, who can show what it truly means to be human, he frowned. You mean, me? Yes, you, she said. I want you to join me. As my aide, my interpreter, and my proof that compassion still breathes on Earth. Evan's mouth fell open. That's insane, I can't even read half the signs in my city. I don't know your language, your laws. Lyra raised her hand gently. You know what matters. You know kindness, you know struggle, the rest we can teach. He stared at her, lost between fear and wonder. But why me? There must be better people. Her gaze softened. Because the galaxy doesn't need better people, Evan. It needs real ones. Silence filled the deck for a moment. Evan looked out the window again. The stars reflected in his eyes like hope trying to be reborn, he whispered. If I say yes, what happens to me? Lyra stepped closer. You'll train on Vareth Prime. You'll live among other species, learn our ways, and speak for your world when the time comes. He laughed softly. Speak for Earth? Me? She smiled. Who better than the boy who never gave up on it? The ship trembled gently as it approached the station. The lights outside shifted from white to gold. A deep hum filled the air. Evan could feel it in his chest. Like the heartbeat of something enormous, Lyra placed a small silver pendant in his palm, shaped like a tiny star. "This is the seal of witness," she said. "It marks you as a representative under my protection. No one in this galaxy will harm you now." Evan looked down at the glowing charm, his hands shaking slightly. "I don't know if I deserve this," he whispered. Lyra's voice was soft. "Deserving has nothing to do with destiny." The ship docked slowly, mechanical arms guiding it into the massive ring. A crowd of alien officers waited below, each one bowing as Lyra stepped off the ramp. The sound of 1,000 lights hummed above them. Evan followed her, his heart pounding. Every step felt heavier, not from fear, but from the weight of something new, something larger than himself. Lyra turned to him once more before they entered the grand hall. "Evan, from this moment you're no longer just a human boy. You're the voice that reminded the galaxy of mercy." He swallowed hard. "And what if I fail?" Lyra smiled softly. "Then you will fail bravely, and that will still be more than most ever try." As they walked together through the shining corridors of the station, Evan looked back one last time at the window. Beyond it, Earth was just a faint blue star now, far away yet still burning with life. For the first time in his life, he didn't feel small anymore. He felt seen, he felt chosen, and somewhere deep inside him a quiet thought formed. Maybe the universe hadn't forgotten him after all. Days turned into weeks aboard the great station of Verith Prime. Evan had never seen anything like it. The place shimmered like a floating city made of light and crystal, every corridor alive with voices from hundreds of worlds. He spent his days learning languages, customs, and the strange silent gestures that aliens used instead of smiles. At first he felt lost, but Lyra never left him alone for long. "You learn faster than most cadets," she said one morning, as he struggled to pronounce a Verithian word that meant honor through compassion. Evan laughed softly. "Yeah, but I still can't use your fancy utensils without dropping them." Lyra smiled. "Utensils can be replaced. Kindness cannot." For the first time in his life, Evan felt like he mattered, not because of money or power, but because someone believed he could. He didn't realize that danger was already reaching for them again. Late one night, while Lyra attended a high-level council meeting, the station lights dimmed, the sound of sirens filled the air. A metallic voice echoed through the corridors. "Security breach detected, Quadrant 5. Evan froze. He saw smoke curling through the air ducts. The training instructor shouted for everyone to stay in their dorms, but curiosity and instinct pulled him toward the chaos. He ran down the narrow passage, the pendant Lyra had given him glowing faintly against his chest. When he reached the docking bay, he saw a sight that made his blood run cold. A small raider ship had breached the hangar shield. Dark armored figures poured out, their weapons pulsing with red light. They weren't pirates this time. They were organized, silent, deadly. One of them shouted in a strange guttural language, "Find the diplomat!" She must not reach the council. Evan ducked behind a crate, heart pounding. He realized they were after Lyra again. His mind raced. He didn't have a weapon. He didn't even have armor, but he had to do something. He spotted a control panel across the room, its lights blinking rapidly. He remembered his maintenance lessons from earlier in the week. The airlocks had emergency override switches. If he could reach them, he might be able to cut off the raiders' reinforcements. He crawled between the containers, moving slowly. Every step echoed too loudly. Every breath felt like thunder. One raider turned his head. Evan froze. Praying, the raider moved away and Evan reached the console. His hand shook as he entered the code he barely remembered. Come on, he whispered. The screen flashed green and the outer gate slammed shut with a deep metallic thud. The invading ship was trapped halfway through. Sparks flying. The raiders roared in frustration. One of them saw him pointing a weapon. "Human!" the voice growled. Evan dove behind the crates just as a red blast hit the floor where he'd been. His ears rang. He scrambled for cover, heart racing. He could hear them coming closer, boots striking hard against the metal floor. Suddenly, a blinding white light filled the hangar. A low hum turned into a deep roar. Lyra's ship descended through the ceiling gate, shields glowing. She appeared at the ramp, silver eyes blazing. "Enough!" Her voice echoed like thunder. The raiders froze as if the air itself held them. Lyra's staff glowed with bright energy. She turned her gaze toward Evan. "Get behind me," she commanded. He stumbled forward, panting. I tried to stop them, I know," she said softly. You did well. She raised her hand and a burst of light exploded outward. The raiders were thrown back as though hit by a wave of stars. Their weapons shattered, their armor cracked within seconds. The hangar was silent again. Only smoke rising where they had stood. Evan stared at her wide-eyed. You could have been killed, he said. They were ready for you. Lyra's glow dimmed, her breathing heavy. They wanted me alive, Evan. Not dead, she said. They needed a hostage, to silence Earth's admission into the Union. Evan frowned. So this is about me now? Not just you, she said quietly. About what you represent, hope, change. The idea that humanity still has a place among the stars. He shook his head. I'm just a street boy, she smiled faintly. And yet, you're the one who saved a diplomat and stopped an invasion. He looked down, blushing slightly. I just didn't want them to hurt you. Lyra touched his shoulder gently. That's exactly what makes you dangerous. Your heart. The council guards arrived moments later. Taking the unconscious raiders away, Lyra turned to them and said, Increase planetary security? This was no random strike. Someone powerful is behind it. When they left, she looked at Evan again. From now on, you'll stay close to me, she said. He smiled tiredly. Wasn't planning on leaving anyway. She laughed softly. The sound like wind chimes. Good, because we still have work to do. Later that night, as the stars drifted beyond the glass walls, Evan sat beside her in silence. The adrenaline had faded, leaving only quiet awe. He finally spoke. Lyra, when you first met me, did you know this would happen? She looked out at the stars. No, Evan, but I hoped it would. He tilted his head. Why? Because, she said with a small smile. Every empire forgets what compassion feels like, until a human reminds them. Evan smiled faintly, eyes heavy with exhaustion, as he drifted to sleep under the alien lights. Lyra whispered to herself. The boy who gave a coin will soon give the galaxy a reason to believe again. And outside, beyond the glass dome, the stars burned brighter, as if they already knew what was coming. The next morning, the entire station buzzed with whispers. Every corridor, every control room, every alien tongue repeated one name, the human boy. Some said he was a soldier. Others said a secret weapon. A few even believed he was a chosen being from some lost prophecy. Evan just sat in the medbay, still wearing the same torn shirt he had worn on Earth. His hand shaking slightly as he held a cup of warm blue liquid that passed for tea here. He couldn't understand why everyone looked at him like that. He wasn't a hero, he was just a boy who refused to run. Lyra entered the room, her silver eyes calm but proud. The glow around her had softened. Not royal, not divine, just kind. She sat beside him and said quietly, The council is calling a meeting. They want to hear what happened from both of us. Evan sighed. I don't know what to say. I don't even understand half of what happened. She smiled faintly. Then speak the truth. That's something they rarely hear. They walked through the grand corridor together. Aliens of every shape and color stepped aside as they passed. Some bowed to Lyra, others nodded respectfully toward Evan. He felt small and huge at the same time. The boy from the streets walking beside a legend. The council chamber was vast, a circular hall with floating platforms, each glowing a different color. Thousands of delegates floated above, their eyes and antennae fixed on the two figures entering the center. A deep voice echoed. Diplomat Lyra Vareth, representative of Vareth Prime, you stand before the Galactic Council, and this is the human you speak of? Lyra nodded gracefully. Yes, honored council, his name is Evan, and he represents the spirit of the planet you have ignored for centuries. A murmur spread through the hall. A tall insectoid delegate leaned forward, clicking its mandibles. We have heard of his act of courage, but courage does not equal wisdom. Why risk diplomatic secrecy for one street child? Lyra's tone was calm but sharp. Because that street child risked his life without knowing who I was. Because compassion without reason is rarer than power. And because that human act saved not just me, and it saved this mission. Evan stood silently, unsure what to do. The crowd's alien eyes were on him. His voice felt trapped, but then he remembered her words. Speak the truth. He took a small step forward. I don't know what you all think of humans, he said slowly, his accent heavy but his tone honest. But where I come from, people don't have much. Sometimes all they can give is kindness. The hall fell completely silent. When I saw her that night, he continued, she looked scared, lost like me, so I helped. I didn't care if she was human or not, I just thought, maybe she needed someone to care. He paused, looking around at the silent faces above him. Maybe your galaxies are full of smart people, full of rich ones too. But if you forget what it feels like to care for someone without asking what species they are, then you're no better than the streets I came from. The words hung in the air like starlight frozen in time. Lyra watched him quietly, pride glimmering in her eyes. The insectoid delegate tilted its head. Strange words, simple, yet powerful, it said slowly. Another voice, wide, deep, and metallic, spoke from the far end. Perhaps we have underestimated Earth. If one forgotten boy can show such clarity, then maybe the world that raised him deserves a place among us. Lyra bowed deeply. That is all I ever wanted you to see, she said. The central lights shifted to a soft gold. The High Chancellor's voice echoed. By council decree, Earth shall be recognized as a candidate world for observation and integration into the Galactic Union. Gasps spread across the hall. Evan blinked. What does that mean? He whispered. Lyra smiled. It means, Evan, you just changed history. The crowd erupted in sound, and not shouting, not cheering, but a deep, harmonious hum that filled the air like music. It was the sound of acceptance, the Union's way of showing respect. Evan stood still, overwhelmed. They're cheering? Lyra nodded gently. For you, for humanity. After the session ended, Lyra and Evan stood on the balcony overlooking the City of Lights. The stars reflected on the glass towers below. Ships moved like glowing birds across the horizon. Evan leaned on the railing, whispering, I don't get it, why me? I didn't plan any of this, Lyra smiled softly. That's what makes it real, Evan. The galaxy doesn't need heroes who chase glory. It needs hearts that act when no one's watching. He looked at her, his eyes tired but bright. So what happens now? She turned her gaze toward the stars. Now the real work begins. The galaxy will test Earth. Question your motives, doubt your strength, but they will also remember your kindness, and they will know. Humans are not a threat. They are hope. Evan chuckled quietly. Hope, huh? From a homeless boy, Lyra placed her hand gently on his shoulder. From the human who reminded the stars what it means to care. They stood together in silence. Two souls from different worlds bound by one simple truth. Empathy could travel farther than light itself. And as the station orbited above 1,000 suns, the galaxy whispered a new name in reverence, Evan of Earth, the boy who gave the stars their humanity back. Weeks passed after the council's decision, yet Evan still woke up every morning thinking it was a dream. Sometimes he'd look at his reflection in the mirror, cleaner, healthier, wearing a new uniform that shimmered faintly like starlight, and whisper to himself, I'm still that street kid, aren't I? But the universe no longer saw him that way. Everywhere he went across the great station, aliens greeted him with nods or soft gestures of respect. His name had spread across the communication channels of dozens of planets. Evan of Earth, the human boy who spoke of kindness and changed the council's vote. Lyra walked beside him often, her expression both proud and protective. They listen to you now, she said one morning as they crossed the grand bridge of light. Even the delegates who once looked down on humanity quote your words in their speeches. Evan shook his head slowly. I didn't mean to give a speech, I was just talking. That's why it worked, Lyra replied. The galaxy is full of people who talk to be heard. But you spoke because you cared. They reached the edge of the observation deck. The stars outside looked like a river of silver fire. Flowing endlessly, Lyra turned toward him. The Union has decided to send a diplomatic envoy to Earth. And they want you to lead the introduction? Evan's eyes widened. Me? Go back, I can't. I'm not. She smiled gently. You're exactly who you need to be. For a long moment, he just stared at her, the weight of her words sinking in. He thought about the cold nights under broken roofs, the empty days begging for food, the people who never even looked at him, and now here he was, standing among the stars, being asked to speak for all of humanity. Later that night, the envoy ship departed, carrying Lyra, Evan, and a group of galactic officers toward Earth. The voyage was silent, filled with stars so close it felt like they could touch them. Evan sat quietly near the window, his mind drifting through memories. He remembered the first time he saw Lyra, the girl with silver eyes arguing with a driver, The coin he had given her, his last one. He smiled faintly. That coin really was worth something, he whispered. Lyra, sitting nearby, looked up from her tablet. What was that? He chuckled. Nothing, just talking to the stars. When the ship entered Earth's orbit, Lyra's tone became softer. Do you think they'll understand what's coming? Evan looked at the planet below, the blue, fragile, beautiful. No, he said honestly, but they will learn. We always do. The ship landed quietly in a desert near the old city ruins where humanity's first satellite once fell. The sky was golden with sunset. The wind carried dust and silence. A small group of human officials waited nearby, their faces pale as the massive ship opened. For a moment they froze, unsure whether to run or bow. Then Evan stepped forward, not in armor or royalty, but in a simple gray uniform with the silver pendant glowing faintly at his chest. It's all right, he said softly. They're friends. The humans looked at each other. Confused, one of them whispered, Who are you? Evan smiled faintly. Just someone who paid a fare once. Behind him, Lyra descended slowly, her presence graceful. Her silver eyes scanned the humans before her. People of Earth, she said, her voice carrying across the wind. You have been seen. The human commander stepped forward nervously. Seen? By whom? Lyra gestured toward the stars above. By the galaxy, she said simply, and you were found worthy because of him. Dozens of cameras turned toward Evan. His face glowing under the sunset, he looked uncertain, then spoke quietly. It started with a coin, he said, but it was never about money. It was about choice and to care when you don't have to. The crowd listened, silent, moved by his tone. I thought I had nothing, he continued, but now I know. Kindness is the only thing that never runs out. You just have to give it first. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then applause began. Slow, hesitant, then growing louder. Echoing across the empty plain, Lyra turned to him, smiling. They finally see what I saw that night. Evan looked up at the darkening sky, where the stars were beginning to appear. You know, Lyra, he said softly. I think the universe was waiting for us to meet. She nodded. Perhaps it was. Or perhaps the universe simply rewards those who remember their humanity. The wind swept across the desert, carrying their words into the twilight somewhere far above. The great station shone like a distant moon, and in that moment, a boy who once had nothing, no home, no family, no future, became the bridge between worlds. His story spread across planets, whispered through the galaxies, retold in hundreds of languages. They called him many things, the kind human, the coin-bearer, the ambassador of compassion. But to Lyra, he would always be Evan, the boy who taught the stars what it meant to care again. As night fell on Earth, he looked up, the stars brighter than ever. He smiled and whispered, Guess I finally found my home everywhere, and the universe, vast and endless, seemed to shimmer back in quiet agreement.